Daylight savings time, sundowning, shorter days, the weather, all that fun stuff on this episode of Life Under Deborah's Palm, the Dementia Road. Stay tuned. To my channel, and thank you as always for watching and subscribing and leaving comments. I try to get back to the comments within a couple of days, but it doesn't always work. Also, I have a second channel if you are interested in that. If you go to my YouTube channel, you will see on the bottom underneath the playlist that there's the other channel that you can click on and go to that. Today, what I thought I would talk about in honor of daylight savings time and the change, or the ending of it, I guess, and the clocks going back and the annoyance that we all feel when it happens. Imagine what that's like with dementia. It really screws people up. If you don't know this, winter and spring are the worst times for dementia patients. A few years ago, maybe like 3 or 4, I think it was 2018, there was a study that was done in the US and Canada concerning changing seasons and cognitive issues. And what they found was the most common time for someone to be diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment, which is basically the early stages of dementia, was winter and spring. It is the time it rears its ugly head, more so than when the days are longer and the weather's nicer. The reason being, our days start getting shorter here in the Northern Hemisphere. For my folks in Australia, you guys are going into summer, but winter will be back. And in the changing of that, the days getting shorter, the weather changing, the weather gets worse. Now we add to that daylight savings time ending, I guess it's ending. What ends up happening is the person with dementia can start to get weirder, and their internal clocks get screwed up, and they don't know how to fix it. So if you had somebody that went to bed at 9, but now it's getting darker, so it was getting sunset, I think was around 6-ish, I'd say. But now what happens is you change the time, and now it's 5:30, and they want to go to bed too early, and then they're up in the middle of the night, or they're up too early. It really does screw up their schedule. On top of that, do you have a loved one with a form of dementia that when they were well, they struggled with seasonal affective disorder or depression? Because lack of daylight and bad weather already affects them, and now add dementia to it, and you really may find them really struggling more than what is normal. What I saw with my mother through the winter into the spring that's when I really saw the decline. That is when the socialization was less, because those who stopped to see her didn't get out in the crummy weather. I live in one of the cloudiest, snowiest metropolitan cities in the United States. It snows a lot here. And older people don't go out, and they shouldn't be going out, but that meant less visitors for my mother. And on top of that, I don't know what was with my mom, but she had a north-south face house, so she didn't get evening sun or morning sun. And besides that, she had this thing where she had sheer curtains, just a sheer that's on all of her major windows, and she never opened them. So it was always filtered light. What little light there was always filtered through these sheer curtains. It drove me and my brother nuts, but that was how she wanted to live. Add to that, the woman never turned a light on in her house, and now it's dark and dreary and snowing or raining or whatever, and you'd walk into her house and it was like, God, Ma, can you turn on a light? She would think bedtime was at 5 or 6 o'clock, and that was the second year. But that was what was going on. It was just making it worse. So the first year I saw the decline, and it was pretty major, and I thought, she's not going to make it through 2 winters in her house by herself. And she really didn't. I was there almost more than I wasn't there to make sure she was okay, but that's exactly what was happening. She thought the aides were showing up at her house at 10 o'clock at night. It was 5 o'clock, but because it was dark, she was losing the track of time. Some of the things that maybe a doctor could help you with is some light therapy. They don't prescribe light therapy for everybody. If someone has eye issues, maybe like macular degeneration, that's not a great option for them. Certain diseases, it's not a great option for them. Lupus, diabetes, things like that. But I would say ask your doctor or their doctor if something like that would help them, like just more bright lights in the house. Socialization is always going to be the key. It keeps your brain functioning and thinking, and the less you do that, the worse they become. Watch the temperature of the house, make sure it's warm enough. I know we all want to shut down the thermostat and stuff. I don't know. Get your loved one one of those nice snuggly things and an electric blanket or something if you think they won't crank it to 100 at night. It's always something. Which brings us into sundowning. Sundowning is when you see things like confusion, anger, agitation, anxiety, pacing, and sometimes there's something they call shadowing, which I'll explain in a second. All those things happen, guess when? Sundown, hence the name. It gets worse. So they may have a little of that during the day, or they may have none of it during the day. But all of a sudden, night shows up, and whether it's the combination of the darkness, the tiredness of the day, their brain trying to process the day, they don't know for sure, but they suspect it's a combination of all those things. They consider sundowning through the night. Like, it doesn't just start at sundown and do that for 2 or 3 hours. It can go on throughout the entire night where they're restless and they don't sleep and they wander the house. And of course, you don't want them wandering the house because you don't trust them, or they could go out the door. It gets really, really difficult. Some of the things you can do: skip caffeine, nicotine if you can. That may help quiet them down. I've said this, I think, in other videos. Be very, very careful what you are watching on TV when they are around. You might think they don't get it. They get things mixed up is what happens. I saw this with my mother, where she would be watching I don't know what, but she would call sure that the police had come to my house and picked me up and all sorts of stuff. I knew it was coming from the television. In the memory care facility where she's at, they don't do that kind of television. There's no Blue Bloods. There's no NCIS. It's like the Hallmark Channel, which is all Christmas right now, so she thinks it's Christmas, but it's better than thinking people are dead. Be careful. They get to where they can't distinguish reality from TV or reality from dreams. So if they're wandering in the middle of the night and you get up and you don't know what to do with them, okay, don't freak out and yell at them. Ask them what they want. You might have to make a list. Are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Do you need to use the bathroom? Whatever that is. My father-in-law was nonverbal, but if you gave him a list, when you hit what the issue was, he would go like this, like that's it. Their verbal skills can decrease in the middle of the night. They might have had a bad dream. My mother has called me literally from memory care at 1:30 in the morning, all just confused and weirded out and thinking something happened, and I'm pretty sure she probably dreamt it. Watch your nonverbal cues. So you're trying not to get aggravated with your loved one, and so you've been very good and you've shut your mouth, which can be real hard. But are you rolling your eyes? Are you crossing your arms? Are you giving them an attitude without saying something? They can pick up on your emotions, and they pick it up easier than you think. And now what happens is They internalize it. They don't know why you're upset. They don't know what to do, and they get frantic. So that needs to be under control. You need to keep those nonverbal cues in check. Things that could help you. I've said this before, music calms the savage beast. It is something that for whatever reason your brain never loses that capacity. Think of things that they would like to listen to, maybe music when you were, especially if it's a parent, when you were a kid. What were they listening to? Make it calmer stuff. Don't be putting on any like thrasher music, stuff that's loud. That can help them. Exercise can help them during the day, kind of calm them, get whatever endorphins or whatever it releases into the brain. And even if they are not particularly mobile, maybe they just, if they're older and they have issues. But YouTube has a lot of stuff on it. You can find like chair exercises and just some stretching and putting their hands over their head or whatever. That may really help. The hard thing is, nothing works all the time. Some of these may work, some of these may not work. Some of them will work today, they won't work tomorrow. It's the difficulty of caretaking dementia, for sure. I know it can be real hard to quiet them down sometimes. I went through that with my mom, where she could be what seemed a bit obsessive, where they just go around and around over something. During the daytime, I had a lot more success kind of moving her onto something, because I could always say, hey, let's go for a walk, or let's get in the car, or let's, I don't know, make a batch of cookies. At night, it's a lot harder. And I found that with my mother. Once it got to be about 6 or 7 o'clock at night during the winter when it was dark out, it was really hard to get her unstuck. Like I said, nothing's bulletproof here. Nothing works all the time, every time. Don't know if that helped. If you have any ideas, sometimes the doctors can prescribe things if that need be, but if you have any great ideas, something that worked for you, feel free to comment below. It might work for somebody else. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.